Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, with the end of every election comes reactions. Reactions from the voting population, from those who won, and of course, those who lost. The 2019 election is no different, and that will be our focus on the program today. But let's first take a look at other topics that drew reactions from the social media in the past week.
American comedian, actor and producer Kevin Hart reached out to a young Nigerian artist who posted a drawing of him on Twitter. The Kaduna-based artist Eli Waduba Yusuf had posted the drawing and asked users to retweet it till it gets to Art, and it did. Art replied saying he has seen it and will like to support Yusuf by paying him to do a pencil of 3 of his celebrity friends. Nigerian boxer Kamaru Usman made history as he became the first African to win the Ultimate Fighting Championship title. Known as the Nigerian Nightmare, he won the mixed martial arts bout against American Tyron Woodley. The UFC is the biggest competition in MMA, where competitors combine boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and other disciplines while fighting in an octagonal cage.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. Of course, congratulations to Kamaru Usman for that feat. But we have joining us today on the program to look at the topic. We have the Secretary, Delta State of the ARNP, Abraham Jigu. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
My pleasure.
Of course. We also have the publisher of lasgidinews.ng, Jermaine Somolu. It's a pleasure as well to have you on the program.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you for having me.
And joining us via Google Plus Hangout from Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, we have Dr. Yahaya Yakubu, a political scientist and a lecturer. Thanks as well for being on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me, Victor.
Of course. Kickstart this conversation for us, Yahaya Yakubu. I mean, there's been mixed feelings, so to speak, now, as regards the conduct of the just concluded presidential election. Some say it was good, and for others, it was the other way around. But what do you make of this conduct by INEC?
Okay, first of all, I think while it is very much, easy for us to go behind our keyboards and, criticize INEC for doing this or doing that, we should try to understand the contextual dynamics in which these elections are taking place. Nigeria is a monocrop economy which depends mainly. So your access to resources is determined by your access or inaccess to governance. So this struggle for power makes election a very sort of do or die affair. So first of all, INEC being a major stakeholder in this is to ensure that electoral materials and other requirements are in place and on time. of which to that extent, I would say to a very large extent, INEC made significant, how will I say, there's a certain level of effectiveness to that effect. Though there were pocket incidents in which there were complaints of late arrival of electoral materials and all that. And also in the area of collation, based on the way the elections work, you have party agents who represent their principals at this polling unit. So these agents are to affirm after the election by signing that they consent or they concord to the number of votes. Right. So after that, once the announcement are being made in Abuja, I don't think there is any room or window for anybody, persons, or institutions to try to stop what INEC is doing.
Even if they have grievances with the process? Like you said, there were pockets of late arrival of material sensitive as well as others. So don't you think that's a ground for people to um, complain?
Yes, it is. But first we need to understand that Nigeria is not just Abuja. Nigeria is not Lagos. Nigeria is not or Kaduna. Nigeria is that remote area where it takes you 5 hours, from the city center to get there. Nigeria is that remote area where it takes you 5 or 6, 7 hours on a ferry to get there. So
Well,
as much as INEC.
isn't that why we have airports and the mode of transportation, the air mode of transportation?
Yes, considering the sensitivity of these materials involved, I don't think we are privy to have the information in the manner in which they were moved. But I would like to say, to a large extent, considering our territorial, vastness, it is very almost difficult for a country like Nigeria that is fighting to put its institution in order to be able to meet to a certain level of effectiveness. The expectation,
All
no
right.
doubt, is high. INEC did their best to an extent in what I was able to observe. There were areas that the PU offices were there as early as 7 a.m.
Okay.
So if you, yes,
Yeah. So let me just hold you there for a bit. Let me come to one of our guests here in the studio. Abraham, do you agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with him to some extent. If you're asking my view about the conduct of the election that just took place a week ago, I would say, looking at the dynamics of a complex country like Nigeria, you have to give kudos to INEC. We are not expecting 100% perfection from that body. But like you said, we are expecting at least that the grievances of political gladiators and parties should be addressed and not swept aside. There were lots of complaints about underage voting, military, Nigerian army in particular, interfering in elections of some states. There were also complaints about polling units being attacked by thugs, and the ballot boxes being snatched, votes that were already being voted being burnt and destroyed. There was no security. And this was what the president assured the nation, that there was not going to be an issue or a case of ballot snatching. But we found out that there were some states that had these occurrences and some states didn't have it. So are we saying that we have secret cows now in Nigeria? We see, as much as we give kudos and give a thumbs up to INEC, being a human organization run by human beings, for at least conducting an election to an extent that is fair, but was it likely free? There were so many complaints. These complaints has to be addressed going into the next election. You see, when we show the capacity to be able to listen to complaints and address them, then we know that we are trying to move forward. But by the time complaints are made by political parties who are participating bodies in this election, and you sweep it under the carpet, then we have a problem.
Well, speaking of that problem, how do we, take these problems away, looking at, as we approach the next set of elections?
Well, first of all, I must say that we must commend Nigerians for going out and voting, performing their civic responsibilities very, very well in the best manner they could. We must commend the security forces, commend INEC also for doing their best. There's no perfect system, but you must know that our democracy is growing. And right now, this is an improvement from what happened before. There are lessons to be learned, and they will be learned. Now, regarding conflict or the resolutions or disputes that other parties may have with the results and all that, that's what the judiciary is there for. That's what the court of law is there for. So they can actually go and challenge, seek redress in the courts of law, and they'll find solutions, hopefully, for that. But as we see it right now, these elections were free, they were fair, they were credible. There was security. Now you may say, was the security sufficient? There was security in certain places and other places too. But you know, some tensions may build in certain areas.
You know, there was a video I saw of a polling unit where thugs were actually trying to cart away the ballot boxes, and there was only one police officer. He tried his best, but I mean, they outnumbered him.
Well, as you know, 180 million Nigerians and counting, and we have a police force of not up to 1 million, I believe, in the last count. So, but you know, there were citizens that actually, as I said, we must thank Nigerians. There were citizens who rose up, who defended their votes, who ensured that when their votes were cast, they were also counted. So security is not just the responsibility of the security agencies. It's also the responsibility of the citizens. And they've actually exercised their own civic duty to ensure that the votes were secure, and they did the best. So we must commend Nigerians, commend the government of the day, commend INEC for what has gone, and let's just ensure that this process of election management must actually be reviewed so that those that need, things that need to be unbundled, things that other agencies that need to be set up to manage certain areas, so it will be more effective, should be done as we move forward in the next election in 2023. But for now, we must give them kudos.
Speaking of, you know, infusing technology into the whole system, what would you have advised? Because the INEC chairman said, you know, in as much as there was some, you know, form of technology, they couldn't use it because the law of the land does not recognize that. What do you think should be done moving forward?
Moving forward, I think the Electoral Act should be reviewed properly. The INEC should be given more powers. Now, in the area where he mentioned something about security, now I think security in elections in Nigeria, impartial security, unbiased security, will go a long way to guarantee free and fair elections. We still have situations where bandits, thugs, are still snatching buses. Now, if, like I said earlier, the areas, the states that had these situations, you are able to deploy the Nigerian police force unbiased to guard.
Are you alleging that there was a bias?
Yes, there is. There was.
Do you agree there was something of such?
Well, these allegations have to be substantiated and have to be proved. You know, because we don't know who snatched the ballots. If you say they snatched the ballots, where's the record? Where's the proof for that? But what we know is that elections were taking place. People voted. There were some problems in certain areas, and the resolutions, people will resolve matters in the courts if they have any differences there. But even international community, the observers, European Union, the British government, they all said that these results that came out were in line with what they actually had, what they actually observed. So I know people are genuinely agreed, but we just have to say the past is the past. Let's go and seek for redress. But moving forward, let's do a lot better.
Well, talking about doing better, well, while we think of how we do that, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.